we're always pushing ourselves creatively, or hopefully we all are, right? And if you're doing that, that means you're running into things you haven't experienced before. And even if you're running into stuff you have experienced before, just to get stuff right, it just takes time, and it takes iteration, and it takes feedback. If you get too precious about your work and not let other people kind of pick it apart and help you make it better, and then you don't give yourself the time and the money to really hone in on that, then I think you're doing yourself a disservice.
Hey, welcome to the Studio Sherpas podcast. This is episode 105. My name is Ryan Koral, and we are here to help you grow your video business. And it's the end of the year, my friend. Can you believe it? Nope. None of us can believe it, right? Because you asked that question. Can you believe that? Man, this year flew by. Yeah, we know. I know, it's crazy. And if you have kids, the years, they just go by faster. It is insane. But man, it has been an incredible year for us here at Studio Sherpas. We reached over 100 episodes in the show. We had some incredibly amazing guests on the show. You guys, I'm like, I part of my goal is to like look through this year's episodes, and I'm looking at all these names, and I'm like, oh my gosh, these people they were on the show this year. This is great. All of these people, incredibly talented, and man, I just learned so much, and I'm glad that you were along for the ride. This episode, it's the end of the year, so I just wanted to reflect. I wanted to share with you my three of my biggest takeaways from the year. And just encourage you, this whole running a business, a creative business, making films and trying to keep clients happy and stay fulfilled and stay inspired and all that. It is hard. You know this. I know this. We've experienced it. We've experienced droughts. We've experienced plenty. And, through it all, my hope is that the stories that are inside of us, the skills that are inside of us, of being a filmmaker and being a storyteller, that we don't lose those, and that we do whatever we can to uncover them, to unearth them, to bring them to the surface. Any more analogies like that I can think of? But if we are held back in any way by not being who we were made to be, and telling the stories that we have to tell, the stories that we have to tell, the stories that we need to share, my hope is that we can do whatever we need to do to be able to share those and to be that person that we were made to be. With that, I've got three things here. Three big takeaways: be hungry, be humble, and be smart. We've actually taken those three words, hungry, humble, smart, from Patrick Lencioni, and we've borrowed them from him, from a book that I read of his from this year, and have embraced those as our core values, which were very similar to the core values that we had prior to this, but we had 4 core values, and I really loved how humble, hungry, and smart roll off the tongue: hungry, humble, smart. And, so that's very exciting for us to land on those. But also, as I'm thinking about the 3 big takeaways for me this year, they revolve around those things. And so I want to share those with you, go into those a little bit deeper. And then also I've got some of the best of clips from some of our best guests that have been on the show this year that I want to share, and just kind of refresh our minds, be re-excited, reignited by some of those conversations. And yeah, so let's dive right in. This first one, first big takeaway from me for this year is be hungry. I heard this phrase the other day: you can be a learner or you can be the learned. And the difference there is, somebody that's a learner is constantly learning, and the learned is someone who already knows the stuff, and they're good with that. And I never want to be that person that just is like, yep, this is how you do it, and this is always how you do it, and I know it, and I'm going to tell you, and that's the end of it. I always want to be growing, and I always want to be learning, and the only way is to be hungry for it. Grow or die, right? That's a phrase that we hear. It's like, if you're not living, you're dying. It's these cliche sayings, but what did you do in your business this year? What did you do in your filmmaking practice to challenge yourself, or to learn a new technique, and to to be inspired, where did you look for inspiration? Did you read any books? Did you listen to any podcasts? Yes, you did. You're listening to this one. Did you further your education? Did you purchase any courses? Did you challenge yourself? Did you just say, listen, I need to be better at this thing, whether it's, the business part of your business or the filmmaking part, the creative part of your business. Being hungry for me has always been a thing that's pushed me to be able to be better. And man, I love Audible. If you guys have heard me at all, you know that I listen to Audible. I listen to some podcasts, but I spend most of my time in the car listening to Audible when I go on vacation, when I'm in an airplane or anything like that. I'm listening to a book. And this is the list of books that I listened to this year. I read a couple as well. But this is just a fun little list here. I recommend all of these books that I listened to. Can I say read? I never know what to say. First book, actually, this one I'm finishing up right now. It's called Profit First, and this is a really, really interesting concept and book, because as a business owner, if you have employees working for you and you have expenses and overhead and all that stuff, it's just natural for us to think like, well, yeah, pay your employees, pay all that stuff first, and then whatever's left over, you pay yourself. And he's like, no, pay yourself first. If you're not fed, if you don't have what you need, then how are you going to be able to do that? How are you going to be able to provide for others? So you need to feed yourself first. Loving this book. It's really, really good. Jumpstart Your Brain by Doug Hall is a book that I just finished a couple of weeks ago. It was so weird. It was recommended from this person I follow online, and I started listening to it, and I'm like, what is this? Because there's like music and stuff, and it's really good. It's like some training or something. I don't know. It's not like a normal audiobook. I've never listened to an audiobook or an Audible book like this before, but I really, really enjoyed it. He's like an idea guy. If you struggle with coming up with new ideas, this is a really good book to jumpstart your brain. See what he did there? Super good. So definitely recommend that one. Patrick Lencioni, I read two of his books. I reread one of them this year. The Ideal Team Player. This is where we got our core values: humble, hungry, smart. And then also the 5 dysfunctions of a team. We did an all-day leadership team meeting yesterday with our EOS implementer, and one of the parts of the homework was to read the 5 dysfunctions of a team. And, it's things like trust, and I can't remember any of the other ones off the top of my head because I'm trying to just keep moving through this episode and not even take a breath. But really, really good. Patrick writes in such a fun way. He writes a novel. It's like a story. And then at the end of the book, he kind of comes on and talks in real practical terms. But the stories are so interesting that you can totally see yourself in them. And I was so uncomfortable because there's this confrontation with this team. And anyway, it's interesting. Read the book. It's really, really good. I think I also love Death by Meeting by him as well. Actually, every book I've heard from him, I just think is great. Everybody Always by Bob Goff. It's Goff, Goff. And I'll put links to these books in the show notes. This book is just about how much people matter. And if we can learn to embrace that idea that people matter always, not just on good days or their good days, but always, our lives and others' lives will just be so much better. And, for me, it's like my work will be better, home, personal life, all that stuff will be better if I can just embrace this idea that every person matters. I just love Bob. He's hilarious. The guy's larger than life, but he's amazing. That's a really good book. The Ultimate Sales Machine by Chet Holmes. I was hesitant to buy this book because it was just like, ugh, like, do I want to be the ultimate sales machine? Really, really good. Like, he's got some very practical stuff in there. If you need ideas, if you need a system on how to do sales better, how to reach out better, how to follow up up better. I just really enjoyed it. Real Artists Don't Starve by Jeff Goins. We did a podcast episode with Jeff earlier in the year, and I'll share a clip of his later in this episode. But man, I love that book too, because again, very countercultural. Like we think, oh yeah, if you're an artist, you're the starving artist. It's hard to, make a living as an artist, and that's what we all are, right? We're entrepreneurs, but we're also artists, and the mix of that. And what Jeff really tries to drive home is that we don't have to starve. Like it's a mindset, and we can get out of that mindset and actually have a better life when we don't think like that and kind of act like that as a sort of natural progression. We think we become our thoughts, I think is a phrase. And then Donald Miller, Building a Story Brand, solid book. You guys, we talk a lot about story brand. Definitely one to consider. Small Giants by Bo Burlingham. This is another really good one. Obviously, I said these are all good, but this is a bunch of companies that are unique and how they're just built where they value people over profit, and culture is super important. And so I loved Small Giants. And then one of my favorite things that I did this year was I listened to all of the Harry Potter books. J.K. Rowling, thank you. Thank you for your service to this world. And Jim Dale, the guy that does the voiceover in all of those books, you are amazing. Oh my gosh. I am probably the biggest evangelist for this series narrated by Jim Dale. This guy has a voice for every character, and it's incredible. It is so, if you've seen the movies, whatever. If that's all you've done, I don't even want to talk to you. Actually, I do. Just forget that you saw the movies. Listen to the book by Jim Dale. The book's not by Jim Dale, but listen to him read it, and you will be amazed at how this story is just so incredible. He's so engaging. There you go. There's some. I do listen to stuff that's not all business, but hardly ever. And I am listening to those books again because I love them so much. So that's just my list of books. Like I said, I've listened to podcasts. I've gone to conferences this year. We have an EOS implementer. We hired a woman that consults with culture, or on culture, business culture. She's worked with us a handful of times, and I surround myself with people that are hungry. And so that consistently is the thing for me that gives me what I need to keep wanting to do this work. If I wasn't being inspired or encouraged by others, then I'm not sure. I don't know if I'd still be doing this work. And so this kind of is a good segue into the second one is be humble. Know that you don't know it all, and that's okay. You need accountability in trying to run a business, like we all do. And so, if you can say like, okay, I don't know it all. I have something to learn from anybody. It's somebody who's greener than you in this work, somebody who maybe just started their business. There's something to learn from that person. And then there's obviously something to learn from someone who's been in business for 10, 20, 30 years. And so don't be hesitant to ask questions. Get in a small group of CEOs. I joined it's like a monthly coaching group with a bunch of CEOs that are in this group, and we all have different businesses. And the group is led by this guy who's actually a part of the Small Giants community, and we talk about different stuff like finances and how to grow as a business and just these different topics, and to hear other people, their struggles, and then to be asked what my struggles are, and then for me to have a voice and be able to encourage somebody else and to be encouraged by other people. Being in a small group context like that has really, really breathed a lot of new life into my business for me. So if you're not in something like that, find a group of local people, CEOs, creatives. Don't just hop in a group of people that are exactly like you. Don't just get in a group of whatever. Let the size of business be different, maybe the type of business, and mix in with some people that maybe aren't even in your industry at all. And that's really good to hear from those people too. And then, we're starting a mastermind. I'm starting another mastermind group at the start of 2019. So if that's something that you're interested in, I think the URL is studiosherpas.com/mastermind. You can find out some more information there. But just be okay with not knowing everything and having the same experience as somebody who's been doing this for a lot longer than you. But be humble enough to ask questions and to want to learn from other people. And then lastly, being smart. Don't just sit with all the knowledge that you have. If you're one of those people that listens to podcasts and listens to books and watches YouTube tutorials and does, all of those things to take in knowledge, but you don't do anything with it, you don't do the thing that the person is telling you to do, then you don't believe it. Believing something is true and not doing anything about it means that you don't believe it. Belief is action. Believing means doing something. So take what you've learned, set some actionable goals, create a 90-day plan. We do quarterly goals. We call them rocks. And, there are 3 months in a quarter. And I just realized this yesterday in our all-day meeting. If I set a goal for this quarter, that means I have 12 weeks to achieve that goal. And Preston, who's actually on an earlier episode of the show, said, hey, so create 12 steps for this goal. So you've got 12 weeks. If you could do one step a week to reach that goal, then at the end of each week, you should be able to answer the question, am I on target or off target to achieve this goal? And you have a measurable there, right? Otherwise, like what I used to do is just have a goal of make $100,000 or, film a celebrity's wedding or, something like that. And then at the end of the year, it's like, did I do it? No. But if one of my goals was to make $100,000, how could I do that? Well, one thing is let's break that out. I've got 12 months. So how much do I have to make per month? I don't know what the math is, $8,000 a month or something like that. So, maybe step one is just breaking it down, know what I need to make per month. And then, week 2 is know that I need to reach out to, X amount of people, because I know that if I do that, then probably one of those people will book. So, set lunches with this many people per week, and then the following week. So you just kind of build this whole thing out so that every week you're on target or off target. So set these goals and then get some accountability. Get people that are for you, this small group of friends or CEOs or business owners or whatever, get them around you. Let them know what your goals are. If you have a team, let them know what your goals are, and let them ask you the hard question of hey, are you on target to complete your goal? And if so, awesome. If not, why not? And what do you need to do different in order to get to that place? Stop letting the excuse be well, it's just super busy and I'm just, just not sure I can do it. Let that not be a part of our language and our thinking in 2019. And I'm at fault too. I'm definitely, I reached, I think it was 66% of the goals that I set last year for this year. So I didn't achieve all my goals, but what helped me achieve a lot more of my goals was having people know what my goals were, putting those out there, and having people hold me accountable and just be oh, you're not perfect. And then for me to be dang it. But that's good. It's really, really good. So humble, be hungry, be smart. All right, last part of this episode, I just want to share just some of my favorite clips from the show. I listed out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 23, 24 people on this list of, we had 52 shows this year, and I've got half of those. I was trying to just skim through and say oh, this is good, this is good, this is good, or this is really good. They were all really good. But I couldn't grab 24 clips to share with you guys. So I have 5 clips that I want to share. I guess we can dive in. Episode 76. This one was with Jeff Goins, who wrote the book Real Artists Don't Starve. And I have shared this before. There have been plenty of times in my work where I have just asked that question, do I have what it takes? And I love how Jeff addresses this question here in this clip. Let's take a listen.
If you're going to make a living as a creative person, you need to tackle these 3 areas. 1, mindset. How you think about yourself determines in many ways what you end up doing in life. But that's not it. You can't just will yourself to make $1 million. Mm-hmm. But it does start there, right? If you think you're a loser and everybody hates your work, then that's probably going to be a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah.
And I learned this in high school by getting rejected by all the girls, And then you've got this one idiot who just thinks he's the stuff. And guess what? Girls like him.
Yeah,
and I'm what? Dang it,
how does that even work? That is so messed up.
Not fair.
Not fair.
But it turns out that most of us aren't very confident. And most of us are scared of something. And so if we see somebody who's confident, we see somebody who's assured of themselves, that is naturally attractive because most of us are looking for certainty and security in a world that lacks it. So if you are sure of your art, the way that Michelangelo was sure of his art, where he came from a family where he was told that their family name, Buonarroti, which is, a last name. Not everybody had last names at the time. And so if you had a last name, it was a sign of nobility. So he had a last name, a surname. And he was told, the story that his family had told about this was that they came from a noble lineage and they had sort of fallen out of favor with the other noble families in Florence, Italy at the time. And they needed to kind of come back into nobility. And so when he became an artist, his family was like, oh, artists don't make any money. Familiar story. And he said, no, I'm going to be a different kind of artist. And as a result, he became the richest artist of the Renaissance. Now, centuries later, historians found out that he was not noble, that he had no noble blood. And so what's interesting about this is he told himself a story.
Yeah.
I come from a noble family. Therefore, when I go be an artist, I'm going to have to do this differently. And he wrote to a family member of his. He said, I never kept a shop the way most artists do. And what that means, that's like a very pejorative thing that he's saying. He's saying, I wasn't a shopkeeper. I worked with princes. I worked with the richest, most elite members of society. I worked with popes. I wasn't like one of those schmoes. I was different. And because of the connections with the right people, he was able to charge 10 times what everybody else was. So you've got mindset, which leads to market. Market is just the people that you need to help your work succeed. So these are masters who are apprenticing you. And, we live in this age where everybody should be acting like an apprentice. People listening to this podcast are essentially making themselves students of, the mastery that you're demonstrating, Ryan. So, you've got the masters and apprentice relationship. You've got patrons. And again, these are very accessible resources to most of us. The patrons, in many cases, are the people around us. And then ultimately you have money. Are you going to charge for your work? How much are you going to charge for your work? How are you going to make money? What are you going to do with that money? These are the three different areas. You've got to master your mindset. Then you've got to master kind of the market, the social dynamics of the business that you're in. And it is a business. It's an art too, but it's also business. And then ultimately you've got to figure out the money piece. You master those three areas, you'll thrive.
That's beautiful. That whole, launching Studio Sherpas years ago, it was like, what do I have what it takes? Because I'm still I'm still figuring stuff out, right? Like sure. I want to help mentor and coach other people that are doing the same thing that I'm doing. But like, what is it in me that is making me like feel like I have a voice? And there was this voice in the back of my head that was just like, you can't, like, you're like, you just had a crappy financial year. Like what you're going to tell people like how to run their own video business. And so I had to fight that. And I love that idea about identity and having confidence. But there's definitely a balance in that, not saying like, well, yes, everybody should listen to what I do. Everybody should buy my art. It's the best, right? It works for some people. It might not work for other people. But for people that are kind of in that struggle of feeling like, well, the best piece that I have, the best film that I have or whatever, I'm not like super confident in it. It was cool like as we were doing it, but now I'm just kind of like, I don't love it. How do you encourage people or challenge people to embrace where they're at, but also, obviously to keep moving forward? And then also, when you're in a sales meeting, if you're not confident in a sales meeting, then whoever you're talking to is going to be like, is this who we want to hire?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One of the things that I believe is whatever you think you are, you essentially become, right? So we are not just what we do, but we become what we practice.
Yeah.
And so every day you're practicing being someone. You're practicing being the moody, frustrated, starving artist, or you're practicing being someone else. And I don't believe we fake it till we make it, but I do believe that we believe it till we become it, right?
Ooh,
so it's this idea that you are an artist, right? You already are this thing that you want to be. You are a professional. Now you just need to start acting like it. So I became a writer because I was already writing. I was already doing my work in fits and starts in a very amateurish way, but I was doing it. And a friend of mine asked me what my dream was. And I said, I didn't know. And he said, really? Because I would have thought your dream was to be a writer. I said, well, I guess I'd like to be a writer someday. And he said, Jeff, he smiled, you don't have to want to be a writer. You are a writer. You just need to write, right? And I thought, wow, what if I just started acting as if this were true? Because it kind of already is, but I'm also sort of waiting for it to happen to me. And so the next day I got up at 5 a.m. because I was told this was the magical hour that writers do their work. And I wrote for about an hour. And that felt good. And so I did it again the next day. And I started sharing these pieces of writing. I'd write 500 to sometimes 1,000 words every morning. And I would post it as a daily blog post on my blog. And I did this for a year. And it was my way of not saying, hey, I'm the expert. I have arrived and you should listen to me. Yeah. But I also wasn't hiding, waiting for somebody to come pick me and say, okay, now it's your turn.
Yeah.
And I was practicing in public. And I think this is the best thing that we can do. This is what, you did with the podcast, Ryan, and with your business, is you said, okay, I don't have everything figured out, but that may never happen. Yeah. So what if I just honestly shared what I do know without fronting, without any sort of pretense or artifice, and just said, here's who I am. Here's what I know. This is me. Maybe it will be helpful to you. I find this is the best way to position yourself as a so-called expert today, not to pretend to be something that you are not, but at the same time, not to wait to fully become who you already are, and instead to practice in public. Take what you know and share it. Do your work in a place where people can see you doing your work. They can watch you get better. And over time, more and more people will begin to notice you, trust you, and listen to you.
And then in that same vein, episode 101, I interviewed Jasmine Star, which I was so excited about because she's super famous. Still talking about this idea, you have what it takes, and we talk about the messiness of business and life, and how to keep moving forward, and can you keep moving forward in the mess of not totally knowing how to do this thing. Not being 100% sure that you're doing the right thing, that you're making the right decision, that you're taking on the right client, or that you're firing the right client. Here's what Jasmine had to say about that.
I love this question. And I think that just as you were asking it, I realized that every time I start something new, or I'm challenged, or something kind of bubbles up inside me where it kind of scares me and kind of excites me, the mantra I repeat to myself is start messy, start scrappy, start gritty. And I feel like when you give yourself the permission to not have to have everything mapped out and everything great and have a linear plan and this is how I'm going to launch it and execute, I feel like the only way, and this is me now talking in retrospect as an entrepreneur for 13 years, is the only way the good ideas came is when you just had a litany of bad ones. And the confidence only comes after realizing that 1 or 10 or literally thousands of failures won't define you. It's people remember you by the risks you took and the successes that you created, but they forget, the public and private failures along the way. So starting messy is going to be the first place to start to actually bourgeon creativity and success and confidence, but you have to kind of get through the messy part.
Yeah, that's really good. But you say get through the messy part. I feel like if we can just have that mindset of embracing the messy throughout the whole, the whole journey, it's super good because then we have the freedom to continue to say well, I'm going to try something new. And I know, when we started Studio Sherpas 3 years ago, I approached my wife and I said, hey, here's this idea. We know what it's like to start a business. And I'm like, are you cool with me doing this? And we just knew the cost. We knew it was going to be messy. We knew it was going to be hard. And she said, yeah, this is something that you're super passionate about and I want you to do it. And so, the first 2 years, it was messy. It was scrappy. It was really hard. But now, there's a rhythm and it's okay, cool. This is going, it's working. And and what next? Where's the next mess that I can make?
You know what? I as you say that, I think back to man, I'm having these life realization moments. I feel like I'm talking to Dr. Phil. I feel like I've become addicted to the mess. Because there's times when you're actually in it that you feel every human emotion in such extremes. You feel such joy and such fear and such radiance and such terror. in all equal proportions, that all of a sudden, when it becomes rote and when it becomes easy, when it becomes cyclical and very pattern driven, you kind of are like, you know what? I gotta make things messy. I gotta stay on my toes, because that's when I feel things the most. And I think as creatives, we are scared of feeling all the things, but that's also when we produce our best work.
I love that. Embrace the messiness of it all. It's so good. So episode 99, this was, if you haven't listened to episode 99, you gotta listen to it. This is with my buddy, Jim Hogan. And you know what? We have a YouTube channel, and we've been posting these videos, like the live chats and whatever that I've been doing with our guests. For the most part, I've been posting them on our YouTube channel. But you can watch them, on the actual podcast links. We've embedded the videos, in the links themselves. But this one was episode 99, so it's just /99 if you want to watch this one. But Jim was a college roommate, and we actually hated each other when we first met each other for the longest time, and it was because we were too much like each other. I was like, what? Who is this new guy on campus thinks he can come here and be me? So Jim is amazing. He's such a good business development person, and has the way that he can speak to us creatives that don't like selling. Man, it super resonates. So let's listen to this clip about having to sell as a creative.
Some people, a lot of people, don't like sales, right? They are like, man, if I could do everything else, I would love to do everything else except sell. And you talk to college students who are in school and they're thinking, what am I going to do with my life? And you ask them, hey, we're considered a career in sales. And
are you kidding me?
I don't want to do sales. And my question to them is, as it would be to you, like, why don't you like sales? And it always comes back to, well, I don't want to have to try to get people to do something that they don't want to do.
Yeah, right.
And if that were sales, like, I would hate sales too. Right? And so the job of a good salesperson is to determine as quickly as possible if you can help this person. And the best way to do that is to be very clear about the value that you can bring to them, and suss out whether or not those needs that exist with someone that you can help exist with this prospect. So we'll get into that. But I think it's important to start with this idea that, you know, if sales was trying to get people to do something that they don't want to do, then you're looking at sales wrong. Mm-hmm. We should change the conversation at that point. And in the moment that you're in a position where you're trying to convince someone of something that they either don't want or need, you should stop. Mm-hmm. Because there's probably someone else that you should be spending time with that has a need for what you can help them with. Mm-hmm. The question is, how do you arrive at that as quickly as possible? Right? So going back to what you just asked earlier, you know, this company I was talking to, after about 3 hours of conversation, we arrived at this place where it all came back to a misunderstanding or a missed expectation that they had with some of their clients. And it came back to whether or not their clients looked at them as an expert, as someone who is helping them define what it is that they need to do in order to reach their business goals. Mm-hmm. And so my encouragement to them as I was leaving was, hey, maybe you should send a survey, a 1-question survey out to all of your clients. And this is a service-based business as well. Yep. And so the question was going to be around this idea that, hey, we love working with X company for either reason A, which is around this idea that they help us come up with the best ways to reach our business goals, or B, they deliver everything that we need on time and on budget. Everything that we ask them for, they deliver it on time and on budget. Either A, they come up with some great ideas around helping us determine what it is we need to do to reach our business goals, or B, again, they knock out their work in a very efficient way on time and on budget. And what those, and you know, again, those can be framed out in different ways, but what they will help this firm arrive at is whether or not their clients view them as a strategist or a tactical partner. And determining that as quickly as you can is going to set the tone and the expectation for the rest of the relationship.
I love that guy. That was such a fun interview to have him come to the studio and do that together. And then episode 93, this was with Daniel Harmon from the Harmon Brothers. If you know Poopery or Chatbooks or Squatty Potty, you know, they've got, I don't even know how many views, but super famous. Like they're so many of their videos have gone viral, and they are hilarious, super, super funny. This was a great conversation and a great clip about budgeting properly for your jobs and how important it is to budget a little bit more than what you anticipate. So let's listen to Daniel. He's got great experience, because I think today they don't take projects that are less than $500,000 budget. So let's listen to Daniel Harmon from the Harmon Brothers.
Whenever you take on a project and you say, how much is this going to cost, is you would always want to give yourself a buffer, right?
Yeah.
That when you come to a client and you have a really cool idea, or just when you're taking on a project of any kind, is always make sure you have more than what you need. Yeah. Now, you obviously try to, like, if, say, for example, your budget's actually $10,000. That's what it actually is. You know, you don't have any more in the bank to spend than that. Then try to get your video done for like $5,000.
Yeah.
And then leave yourself a cushion to make it excellent. Because what happens is, in the creative process, we all get blind spots. And when you show it to fresh eyes, they come back and be like, this isn't working for me. This is confusing. This wasn't funny, whatever it is. And either you end up needing to do pickup shoots, or you end up needing to do a little bit of rewriting, or you need to edit more, or whatever it is. And if you don't give yourself enough runway, then you can't make something excellent. Yeah. And that's I feel like is as important as anything. We're all human. We all make mistakes. We're all in a process of learning. No matter how much mastery we have at any given thing,
right?
We're always pushing ourselves creatively, or hopefully we all are, right? And if you're doing that, that means you're running into things you haven't experienced before. And even if you're running into stuff you have experienced before, just to get stuff right, it just takes time, and it takes iteration, and it takes feedback. If you get too precious about your work and not let other people kind of pick it apart and help you make it better, and then you don't give yourself the time and the money to really hone in on that, then I think you're doing yourself a disservice. So that's how we maintain quality around here.
Yeah, that's really good. That's super good advice. One of the most popularly purchased. We have a course and a tool called the Budget Maximizer, and that was one of the things I did years ago, just through a spreadsheet, like trying to figure out, like, an hour of filmmaking costs this, editing, revision, kind of adding up what are all the things that we do to get this product done. And then realizing, like, oh, well, I can't just pay, like, if it costs me $100 to pay somebody $100 to act, I can't just charge the client $100, because then I'm just like providing a job for this person. And that was an epiphany early on for me. And then realizing, like, okay, so I need to add some type of profit margin on top of whatever we're paying out, whatever our costs are, even if I'm paying myself. And to your point, to have that opportunity to say, like, if a client comes back a couple of times and you're just like, oh my gosh, I didn't budget like any revisions. At that point, any minutes spent on that project, you're losing money, right?
That's right.
So to be able to budget more than what it costs you. And so anyway, I love that advice. That's super good, because a lot of us get burned, especially early on, where we just feel like we have to bend over backwards for the client and we have to do the revisions. So either we didn't do a good job setting expectations in the contract and in meetings with the client to say, like, hey, you only get this many revisions. Any beyond that is going to cost this. Any reshoots are going to cost this. You're signing off on all of this so that we're not going to be in a position where it's our fault. All these things that you learn through making mistakes and the cost early on. And hopefully it's not on a $500,000 shoot where you're like, oh my gosh, we have to do this whole thing over. We have to get all the talent to come back. Right. Then it's like, oh my gosh, now
it's so expensive. Yeah. No, for sure. Like, it's really important that you set expectations properly with the client using a schedule of work or an SOW, basically that basically outlines, this is what we're delivering. This is when we're delivering it. And then, so it kind of limits them. Like, for example, for us, when we go back and redo stuff, 9 times out of 10, it's because it's us.
Yeah.
Like, we're the ones doing it. It's not actually the client asking for it, because we're going to deliver for the client one way or another. That's kind of our commitment, right? And so, like, for example, if you have that $10,000 budget and you try to shoot it for $5,000, well, maybe you can't actually even get it for that. Maybe it's actually ends up being more like, $7,000, but at least then you still have that, just because you tried for that, you have that $3,000 cushion. But obviously you want people to build in a profit margin of their own. And I think so much of that is when you set those expectations properly with the client, about this is how many revisions you have, or this is what we're going to deliver on. And then if you go above and beyond that, then you're able to point to that and say, look at how awesome we're doing for you. this wasn't your expectation. This wasn't what we agreed to, but we're going to do it because we're committed to quality and we want to do something awesome. I love under-promising and over-delivering.
Yeah.
I love that in business. So that's what
so do your clients.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, case in point for us is that when we enter a partnership with a client, we're never selling viral. A lot of them come to us because they think we've gone viral all these times and stuff. And yes, and some of them have gone viral, but we're not selling in on viral. We're saying we're going to make it good enough that it doesn't have to go viral. And then if it does, that's icing on the cake, right? And so it's very much about setting those expectations properly. And I mean, for us, it's all about, turning a dollar that we're going to create a campaign for them that gives them a return on investment that they know they spend into it.
All right, that was episode 93. And then finally, the last clip that I want to share with you guys, this is from one of my favorite people of all time, somebody who inspired me way back in the day in my first year of filmmaking, Brett Culp. This is episode 56, and we talk about the thing that makes us suffer is also the thing that can prepare us for bigger things. So let's listen to motivational speaker, filmmaker, just awesome human being, Brett Culp.
One of the challenges that I've had recently, we had a client that, just this whole situation that I feel like this client has totally lost trust in us. We have tried hard to do everything to make them happy and to fulfill on our promise. And the client is a very unique individual and has been pretty unfair toward us. And I went home on a Friday. She had just fired off this email that was like cutting to like some of my staff. And I know my staff, I know my people, I know the situation, and she's just alluding to like, just like not good stuff toward us. And I left that conversation thinking, I'm driving home and I'm like, man, I'm going to be thinking about this all weekend. And this is super frustrating. Yeah. And then I had this moment where I'm like, no. This is my business. And as much as I, put myself into my business and I'm passionate about like us growing and being kind and doing the right thing and all that stuff, like I'm learning how to separate my business from my personal life and just say, you know what, to have thicker skin. And I know that's cliche or whatever, but that weekend I just said, I'm not going to internalize this. I'm not going to personalize the things that she said. If this is all for her, it's all about money and it's all about positioning and whatever. Yeah. She can have that. I'm going to let her have that. And that was a huge step. And it reminds me of, 5 years ago when I said I had a choice. I thought I had a choice to either be a great filmmaker and continue to pursue that, or to figure out what it meant to build a great company that could create great films. So to become like a business owner versus like just improving my filmmaking skills. And I said, I'm going to work toward becoming a better business owner and a better CEO. And I think that was kind of the start for me to say like, I don't have to always internalize the mean things that people say about my films or, to feel like I need to come up with excuses. It's just like sometimes it is what it is, and that's okay. There's going to be other clients. There's going to be other opportunities. Learn and grow and change.
That's right. Well, rarely are those kind of responses from people about you. It's mostly about them.
Yeah.
I mean, when you squeeze an orange, what comes out of it? It's orange juice. Why? Because that's what's in it. It doesn't matter who squeezes it, where they squeeze it, how they squeeze it. When you squeeze it, orange juice comes out because that's what's inside of it. And when people get squeezed, what comes out of them is what's inside of them. And so it's rarely about you. I've got a video, my newest video on YouTube right now has 150,000 views. It was put out a couple of weeks ago. And it's got, 1,500 comments or something. And a lot of them are really mean.
Yeah.
Because when anything goes viral, there's a lot of people that come to it that are just mean. And so there's an awesomeness to the fact that my video went viral, but there's also like a cruelty to the thing that had happened. And it's happened to me every time, probably about for me, every 6 months, something of mine goes viral, a video, a post, or something. And when I mean viral, I mean over 100,000 engagements or views or something like that. And, I've had to get to the point where I'm like, okay, what these people are responding to is not about me.
Yeah.
It's not about me. It's about them. And that ability to kind of disconnect from that was really helpful. And frankly, like, if you're one of those people that's like, I wish one of mine would go viral. I wish I'd have that viral impact. And yet when one person makes a mean remark to you, you can't handle it. The truth is you're not ready for your work to go viral. You're not ready, because if you can't handle all that meanness, Going viral will kill you.
Yeah.
It will kill you. So that mean one person you're dealing with right now, that is practice. My favorite line in all of the Batman films is literally at the very beginning of Batman Begins, where Bruce Wayne is in some like camp in like Asia with all these terrible people. It's like in the middle of nowhere. And, you know, he's not the rich guy. He's a nobody in this camp full of mean criminals. And this big, huge guy comes up to him and like bullying him. And the guy says to him, "I'm the devil." And Bruce Wayne's reply is, "You're not the devil, you're practice." And then they have like this, you know, brawl, like right there in the thing. Now, what Bruce Wayne's saying is, this has no consequence here. You're just practice for when I go back to Gotham City. That's the only reason I'm here. And when I encounter those kind of things, that's the way I look at everything these days. Is this problem I'm having right now? What I want to say is like, this is the whole world. This is like a tiny little splinter in your finger. And yet the whole world becomes that splinter for that time because it hurts so bad. This moment hurts so bad and it feels like it's everything. The truth is, this thing is a moment. And if you can perceive it as just a moment that is preparing you to go to the next level, then you can realize that this challenge is just preparation. And if you can, instead of just suffering, you can actually learn and grow and mature from that experience and be transformed by it, then it is essentially the teacher that is preparing you for the bigger things. And that's totally fine. So don't worry about this moment so much. Know that it's just getting you ready for the bigger challenges that you would not be ready for on the bigger stages. Without this moment, you couldn't do it.
All right, that about wraps it up, you guys. I hope you enjoyed this episode. This is a little different than what we do normally, but it was kind of fun. Thank you for letting me share all of the stuff that I shared. You didn't have a choice. Well, I guess you did. You didn't have to keep listening, but I'm glad that you did. Hey, this is a last chance for some of the cool giveaways that we've been talking about. Over $3,000 in coaching and training material that Studio Sherpas offers. And we're also giving away a training on how to set up a Facebook ad funnel for your video business. But you have to fill out a survey, and the point of the survey is to make the show better and more tailored to you, the listener. You got to go to studiosherpas.com/survey and fill out the survey. It takes about 10 minutes. I know your time is incredibly valuable and precious, and that's why we just wanted to create some incentives to get you to say like, okay, we'll do this. So if you like the show and you want to keep listening, go fill out that survey and we can create more topics, get the kind of guests that you want to have on here and talk about the things that you want to talk about. So studiosherpas.com/survey. Thank you for doing that. Hey, I'll see you guys next week for a super sweet episode with the world famous Parker Walbeck from Full Time Filmmaker. You guys are going to love this episode. Here's a quick sneak peek with Parker Walbeck.
One of the biggest principles I live by is called free to fee. It's like, if you don't have work, then go do some free work. When people will see what you're doing, see that free work, it will attract people to give you a fee. And that was a prime example of working for free. It was like a 2-week project to do my iPhone versus Red video. But a year later, and again, no fruits for a long time, but a year later, I get a giant, I can't remember the budget. It was like $40,000, $50,000 budget to shoot for LG. And it's like, man, a free project turns into a $50,000 client.
All right, that really is it, you guys. God bless you, my friends. Merry Christmas, happy holidays. I hope for nothing but an amazing finish to this year, filled with celebration and much, much love. I cannot wait to hear stories that we get to share next year together of the things that we learned and how we've grown. Let's do this, y'all. Let's keep climbing. Talk to you soon. See ya. Bye.